In the heart of the bustling city, where skyscrapers kissed the sky and the pulse of life throbbed with relentless energy, there nestled a quaint cafe, a sanctuary amidst the chaos. It was here, amidst the soft glow of vintage lamps and the intoxicating aroma of freshly brewed coffee, that Grace found solace from the cacophony of her privileged existence. Seated at a small table near the window, Grace observed the ebb and flow of humanity with a detached curiosity, her thoughts a whirlwind of discontent and longing. Despite the opulence that surrounded her, she felt a profound sense of emptiness, a void that no amount of material wealth could fill. Lost in her musings, Grace scarcely noticed the arrival of a newcomer, a man whose unassuming presence seemed to radiate warmth and authenticity. With his easy smile and gentle eyes, he exuded a sense of calm amidst the chaos, a rarity in a world consumed by superficiality and pretense. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, his voice a soothing balm to Grace's weary soul. Startled from her reverie, Grace glanced up, her gaze meeting his with a mixture of surprise and curiosity. After a moment's hesitation, she offered a tentative smile and nodded her assent, gesturing to the empty chair opposite her. As he settled into the seat, their eyes met in silent acknowledgement, a shared understanding that transcended words. And so, amidst the soft murmur of conversation and the clinking of porcelain cups, they embarked upon a journey of discovery, a meeting of two souls in search of solace amidst the chaos of their privileged existence. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, each exchange revealing a depth of character and a shared appreciation for life's simple pleasures. From their mutual love of literature to their disdain for the trappings of wealth, they found common ground in the most unexpected of places. "It's refreshing to meet someone who sees beyond the facade," Grace remarked, a hint of vulnerability in her voice. Brendan nodded in agreement, his eyes alight with understanding. Indeed, in a world consumed by wealth and status, authenticity is a rare and precious commodity. And so, as the hours slipped away unnoticed, Grace and Brendan forged a connection that defied explanation, a bond rooted in mutual respect and understanding. In each other's presence, they found a sense of belonging, a refuge from the superficiality that had long defined their privileged existence. As they parted ways, exchanging numbers with a promise to meet again soon, Grace couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation, a flicker of hope amidst the darkness that had consumed her. For in Brendan, she had found not only a kindred spirit, but perhaps the key to unlocking the true meaning of happiness. And with a renewed sense of purpose, she ventured forth into the unknown, eager to discover what the future held in store. In the days that followed their serendipitous encounter at the cafe, Grace and Brendan found themselves drawn together like two magnets irresistibly drawn to one another. Each interaction deepened their connection, weaving a tapestry of shared experiences and intimate conversations that bound them together in ways they could scarcely comprehend. Their courtship unfolded with a natural ease, their shared love for the simple pleasures of life serving as a foundation upon which their relationship flourished. Whether strolling hand in hand through the verdant gardens of the city park, or stealing quiet moments of intimacy amidst the hustle and bustle of everyday life, they reveled in each other's company with an abandon that defied explanation. As their relationship blossomed, Grace found herself falling deeply and irrevocably in love with Brendan, a love that transcended the boundaries of time and space, enveloping her in a warm embrace that filled her heart to overflowing. With each passing day, she marveled at the depth of her feelings, astonished by the transformative power of love to heal old wounds and awaken dormant desires. Their love was a beacon of hope in a world consumed by darkness, a guiding light that illuminated the path ahead and banished the shadows of doubt and uncertainty. In Brendan's arms, Grace found solace from the storms that raged within her, his unwavering support and unconditional acceptance serving as a lifeline in turbulent waters. "It's like you've opened my eyes to a whole new world," Grace confessed one evening, her voice tinged with wonder. Brendan smiled tenderly, his gaze locked with hers in a silent communion of souls. "And you've shown me that true happiness lies not in wealth or status, but in the simple joys of life and the love of a kindred spirit." Their love knew no bounds, transcending the barriers of social class and upbringing to forge a connection that was as timeless as it was profound. In each other's arms, they found sanctuary from the chaos of the outside world, a sanctuary where their love could flourish and grow, unencumbered by the expectations of society or the judgments of others. And so, as they embarked upon the journey of love together, Grace and Brendan vowed to cherish each moment, to savor each kiss and caress as if it were their last. For in each other's embrace, they had found not only a lover, but a confidant, a companion, and a soulmate, a bond that would endure the tests of time and emerge stronger and more resilient than ever before. As the seasons shifted and the days grew shorter, a sense of anticipation hung in the air, a palpable energy that seemed to hum with possibility and promise. For Grace and Brendan, the time had come to take the next step in their journey together, a step that would forever alter the course of their lives. On a crisp autumn evening, beneath a canopy of twinkling stars and the soft glow of candlelight, Brendan led Grace to their favorite spot in the city park, a secluded clearing surrounded by towering oak trees and bathed in the warm embrace of moonlight. As they walked hand in hand along the winding path, their footsteps echoed in the stillness of the night, a symphony of anticipation that quickened their pulses and set their hearts aflutter. With each passing moment, the tension in the air grew more palpable, until at last they reached their destination, a small wooden bridge overlooking a shimmering pond. With a nervous smile, Brendan turned to face Grace, his eyes alight with emotion. "Grace, there's something I've been wanting to ask you," he began, his voice trembling with excitement. Grace's heart skipped a beat as she gazed into his eyes, a rush of anticipation coursing through her veins. Could this be it? Could he be about to ask the question she had been longing to hear? Taking a deep breath to steady her nerves, Brendan dropped to one knee, his hands trembling as he reached into his pocket and produced a small velvet box. With trembling fingers, he opened the box to reveal a sparkling diamond ring, its brilliance mirrored in the depths of Grace's eyes. "Grace, will you marry me?" Brendan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Tears welled in Grace's eyes as she nodded fervently, her heart overflowing with joy and gratitude. "Yes, Brendan, yes," she exclaimed, her voice ringing out into the night like a melody of pure happiness. With a radiant smile, Brendan slipped the ring onto Grace's finger, sealing their love with a promise that would endure for eternity. In that magical moment, surrounded by the beauty of nature and the warmth of each other's embrace, they pledged their hearts to one another, a bond that would withstand the tests of time and emerge stronger and more resilient than ever before. As they stood together on the bridge, lost in the euphoria of their love, Grace couldn't help but marvel at the twists and turns of fate that had brought them together. In Brendan's arms, she'd have found not only a lover, but a partner, a soulmate whose unwavering love and support would guide her through the challenges that lay ahead. And as they basked in the glow of their newfound happiness, Grace knew with unwavering certainty that their love was destined to last a lifetime. A love that would light the way through even the darkest of nights, illuminating their path with the promise of a future filled with endless possibility and boundless joy. As the euphoria of their engagement began to fade, Grace and Brendan found themselves confronting the harsh realities of their divergent worlds. While their love had once seemed like an unbreakable bond, the strains of their differing backgrounds began to cast a shadow over their once idyllic union. For Grace, accustomed to a life of privilege and luxury, the transition to Brendan's more modest lifestyle proved to be a challenge she had not anticipated. Gone were the extravagant vacations and lavish gifts she'd have grown accustomed to, replaced instead by frugal living and modest dinners. A stark reminder of the gaping chasm that existed between their respective upbringings. Despite Brendan's best efforts to make her feel at home in his world, Grace couldn't shake the feeling of displacement that gnawed at her from within. With each passing day, she found herself yearning for the comforts of her former life, a life of opulence and extravagance that seemed increasingly out of reach. "It's not that I don't appreciate what you're trying to do," Grace confessed one evening, her voice tinged with frustration, "but sometimes it feels like we're living in two different worlds." Brendan's brow furrowed with concern as he reached out to take her hand in his. "I understand that this isn't easy for you, Grace, but we're in this together, remember? We'll find a way to bridge the gap between our worlds, I promise." And yet, despite Brendan's assurances, the strain on their relationship continued to grow. Compounding matters were the subtle hints dropped by Brendan's parents, their not-so-subtle expectations for lavish treatment and extravagant gestures serving as a constant source of tension between them. "No, Brendan, I won't be a pawn in their game of social climbing," Grace declared, her voice laced with defiance. "I refuse to compromise my values and integrity for the sake of appearances." But as the tension between them reached its breaking point, Grace couldn't help but wonder if their love was strong enough to withstand the pressures that threatened to tear them apart. With each passing day, the chasm between their worlds grew wider, until at last it seemed as though they were standing on opposite sides of a divide that could never be bridged. And so, as the strain on their relationship reached its breaking point, Grace found herself grappling with a decision that would alter the course of her life forever. Torn between her love for Brendan and the suffocating expectations of his family, she knew that something had to give, a realization that filled her with a sense of dread and resignation. For Grace, the path forward was uncertain, fraught with challenges and obstacles that seemed insurmountable. But one thing was clear: she could no longer continue to sacrifice her own happiness and well-being for the sake of preserving a relationship that had become untenable. And with a heavy heart and tears streaming down her cheeks, she made the agonizing decision to leave Brendan and his family behind, determined to forge a new path for herself, a path defined by independence, self-discovery, and the pursuit of true happiness. In the wake of her tumultuous breakup with Brendan and his family, Grace found herself adrift in a sea of uncertainty, a lone figure navigating the treacherous waters of heartache and disillusionment. With each passing day, the weight of her decision bore down upon her, a heavy burden that threatened to crush her spirit and extinguish the flicker of hope that still burned within her. Alone in her apartment, surrounded by the echoes of memories that lingered like ghosts in the shadows, Grace grappled with the enormity of her choice. Had she made the right decision in leaving Brendan and his family behind? Or had she condemned herself to a lifetime of regret and longing? As she paced the length of the room, her thoughts churned with indecision, a whirlwind of conflicting emotions that tore at her heart. On one hand, she longed for the comfort and familiarity of her former life, the security of wealth and privilege that had once defined her existence. On the other hand, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had sacrificed her own happiness for the sake of preserving a relationship that had become toxic and unsustainable. "It's not fair," she whispered to herself, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why does love have to be so complicated?" But even as doubt and uncertainty threatened to overwhelm her, a small voice deep within her whispered words of encouragement, a gentle reminder that she was stronger than she realized, and that she had the power to shape her own destiny. With a newfound sense of resolve, Grace made a decision that would alter the course of her life forever. She would no longer allow herself to be defined by the expectations of others, nor would she compromise her values and integrity for the sake of preserving a relationship that had run its course. Gathering her strength, she reached for her phone and dialed Brendan's number, her fingers trembling with nervous anticipation. As the phone rang, her heart pounded in her chest, each beat a testament to the courage it took to confront the past and embrace the future. "Hello." Brendan's voice was tentative, tinged with a hint of sadness. "Brendan, it's Grace," she began, her voice steady despite the tumult of emotions swirling within her. "I need to talk to you." There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line, as if Brendan was processing the weight of her words. And then, with a quiet determination that belied the pain in his voice, he replied, "Of course, Grace. I'll be right over." As she waited for Brendan to arrive, Grace felt a sense of calm settle over her, a quiet reassurance that she was making the right choice, no matter how difficult it might be. For in that moment, she realized that true happiness could only be found by following the dictates of her own heart, and that she was finally ready to embrace the journey that lay ahead, wherever it might lead. In the aftermath of her decision to part ways with Brendan and his family, Grace embarked on a journey of self-discovery, a quest for liberation from the constraints of her past and the shackles of societal expectations. With each passing day, she felt a sense of freedom wash over her, a liberation, born from the realization that she alone held the power to shape her own destiny. Embracing her newfound independence, Grace threw herself into the pursuit of passions long neglected, the thrill of adventure, the joy of creativity, and the fulfillment of self-expression. From exploring new hobbies to rekindling old friendships, She reveled in the freedom to chart her own course, unfettered by the expectations of others. One sunny afternoon, as she wandered the cobblestone streets of the city, Grace stumbled upon a quaint bookstore nestled between two towering buildings, a haven of knowledge and imagination that beckoned to her with an irresistible allure. Intrigued by the promise of new discoveries, she stepped inside, the scent of old books and ink filling her senses with a sense of nostalgia and wonder. As she browsed the shelves, her eyes alighted upon a tattered copy of her favorite childhood novel, a cherished treasure from a bygone era that had shaped her imagination and fueled her dreams. With a smile of recognition, she reached out to caress the weathered spine, her fingers tracing the familiar contours of the title. "Ah, The Secret Garden," a voice behind her remarked, startling her from her reverie. "A timeless classic, don't you think?" Turning to face the speaker, Grace found herself met with the warm gaze of a stranger, a kindred spirit whose love of literature mirrored her own. With a nod of agreement, she replied, "Indeed, it's always held a special place in my heart." The stranger smiled in response, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "Then perhaps you'd like to join me for a cup of tea and a discussion of our favorite books." "My treat." Grace hesitated for a moment, the remnants of her past weighing heavily on her mind. But then, with a sense of determination that surprised even herself, she nodded in agreement, her heart buoyed by the prospect of new beginnings. And so, as they settled into a cozy corner of the bookstore cafe, Grace found herself engaged in a spirited conversation with her newfound companion, a dialogue that flowed effortlessly, unburdened by the expectations of the past or the uncertainties of the future. As they laughed and talked late into the evening, Grace felt a sense of liberation wash over her, a freedom born from the knowledge that she was no longer bound by the constraints of her former life. In the company of her kindred spirit, she felt alive with possibility, her heart open to the endless adventures that lay ahead. And as she bid her new friend farewell and stepped out into the cool night air, Grace knew with unwavering certainty that she was finally free to embrace the journey of self-discovery and empowerment that awaited her, and free to live life on her own terms, unencumbered by the expectations of others. With the dawn of a new day, Grace emerged from the cocoon of her past, a phoenix rising from the ashes of her former life, reborn and revitalized by the promise of new beginnings. As she stood on the threshold of the unknown, she felt a sense of exhilaration coursing through her veins, a thrilling anticipation of the adventures that lay ahead. Determined to embrace the possibilities that awaited her, Grace set out to explore the world with a sense of wonder and curiosity that had long lain dormant within her. From the bustling streets of exotic cities to the tranquil beauty of remote landscapes, she embarked on a journey of self-discovery and exploration, eager to uncover the hidden treasures that lay hidden beneath the surface of the world. With each new experience, Grace felt herself growing stronger and more resilient, her spirit buoyed by the knowledge that she was finally living life on her own terms. Whether wandering through ancient ruins or immersing herself in the vibrant tapestry of local cultures, she reveled in the freedom to chart her own course, unfettered by the expectations of others. Along the way, she encountered a myriad of souls, kindred spirits whose paths intersected with her own, if only for a fleeting moment in time. From fellow travelers with stories to share to locals whose warmth and hospitality left an indelible mark on her heart, she forged connections that transcended the boundaries of language and culture, binding her to the world in ways she had never imagined. One evening, as she sat beneath the stars on a secluded beach, the gentle lapping of the waves serving as a soothing backdrop to her thoughts, Grace found herself lost in contemplation. What did the future hold for her, she wondered? Where would her journey lead her next? Lost in her musings, she scarcely noticed the approach of a stranger, a fellow traveler whose presence seemed to shimmer with an aura of familiarity and warmth. With a smile of recognition, he settled onto the sand beside her, his gaze fixed on the horizon with an intensity that mirrored her own. "It's a beautiful night, isn't it?" he remarked, his voice soft and melodic. Grace nodded in agreement, her eyes tracing the arc of the crescent moon as it cast its silvery glow upon the ocean's surface. "It truly is," she replied, her voice tinged with wonder. For a moment, they sat in companionable silence, the only sound the rhythmic pulse of the waves against the shore. And then, with a sense of serenity that washed over her like a gentle tide, Grace realized that she was exactly where she was meant to be, in this moment, in this place, with a world of possibilities stretching out before her like an open road. As she turned to face the stranger beside her, a smile playing at the corners of her lips, Grace felt a sense of gratitude welling up within her, a gratitude for the journey that had brought her to this place, and for the endless possibilities that awaited her in the days and weeks to come. And as they watched the stars twinkle overhead, their hearts filled with a sense of wonder and excitement, Grace knew with unwavering certainty that her journey was far from over, that with each new sunrise, she would continue to embrace the adventure of life with open arms and an open heart, ready to greet whatever new beginnings awaited her on the horizon.